How do you identify profitable resale property in the market today? I was having this conversation with my real estate mentor just the past week, and I was sharing with him how I have this thought process where I guide my clients to identify resale project which they can go for, because let's be honest here, the new launch market, some of the prices are just off the charts, and there are buyers that might not want to wait or rent for the 2-3 years while waiting for the new launch to build, but at the same time they do not want to buy into something that is not easy to sell or are unable to profit in the future when they want to exit. So I was sharing with him my thought process, right? And he told me, hey Sherwin, actually I have done up this framework years ago, which he used to identify for his clients as well. So what he did, right, is my thought process, right? He has actually streamlined it and make it so simple for laymen to understand, and he called it the S.M.A.R.T Framework. So all credits to him, and I strongly believe in this framework because it's sound and fundamentally correct, and I'm going to share it with you today. So this is the S.M.A.R.T Resale Framework. So what is S.M.A.R.T? S is savings on price difference, M is market liquidity, A is attractive rental demand, R is right size development, and the last T is transformation of the area. So I'm going to go through 3 different case studies in 3 different areas, and from these 3 different case studies, you can see the similarities of these 3 projects, right, which we actually identify. So to be fair, we actually applied through OCR, RCR, and CCR. Case study number 1 for the outside core central region, we took a case of stars of Kovan and Kovan residences. So if you can see from this map itself, they are actually side by side, really just within walking distance, and Kovan MRT is just around the area. So if you look at the graph here, Kovan residences in the same time frame, right, made around 58%, whereas for stars of Kovan, it appreciated around 31.8%. Still an incredible growth. I think this is around 8 years period from where stars of Kovan was launched, just that the resale somehow outperformed the new launch. So if you were to deep dive further, right, you can look at the dates here, the day they purchased for similar units, which is around 2017, and they also sold around the same period, same time frame, and look at the difference in profit. It is almost double for Kovan residences as compared to stars of Kovan. So estimated profit for Kovan residences is around 800,000, whereas for stars of Kovan, they are earning around 400,000 per unit. So the first factor for this framework is saving from price difference. What we mean by that is the gap between new launch and resale. If you look at the new launch and resale market in today's terms, right, resale prices are catching up to new launch prices already, and in some areas, some owners are actually pricing their resale unit higher than the new launch, which makes some new launch relatively attractive. But for this case of Kovan residences and stars of Kovan, right, the difference in PSF during the launch day of stars of Kovan is $258, and that amounts to a 22% price difference, and this is the price gap we are talking about, which if you enter in the resale market, you can take advantage of. Of course, if both of them are selling at 1,000 for PSF, then it will be rather a no-brainer to go for stars of Kovan because of the fresh lease. But 22% difference in pricing, right, actually helps you cushion the lease difference. Okay, so that's number 1, S, savings from price difference. And the next factor is M, which represents market liquidity. So market liquidity in simpler terms or layman terms, it just means transaction volume. If you look at Kovan residences, right, they have a total of 521 units, and they have very healthy transaction, averagely around 3 to 5% per annum. Then you also ask me, why do transaction volume matters? Okay, let's think of it from another perspective. If today you buy a condo that has very few transactions, it means it doesn't appeal to the masses, right? There's no demand, right? And when you want to sell in the future, do you think it'll be easy or hard for you to sell? That's from the ease of exiting point of view. And secondly, we'll talk about the price point. Transaction volume drive valuation, and it also prevents prices from lagging behind. If there's only 1 or 2 transactions per year, right, when you want to price your unit, you might be taking the recent transacted prices, which might be prices from 6 months ago, 1 year ago, and it does not reflect the prices of the current market. So now you see why transaction volume is very important. Okay, moving on to the third point is attractive rental demand. It works the same way as transaction market liquidity, transaction volume. If there's no healthy rental demand, because you have to know how they gauge the annual value of your property. The annual value is based on the market rental for that year. If you look, right, strong rental demand actually supports strong property value. If there's a very weak rental demand or rental price in the area, right, your property value will not go very high on. Averagely, if you look at this, Kovan residences is transacting around 15 to 20% rental transaction per year. And I would say it forms a balanced appeal towards both own stay owners and investors that keep the earlier point which we mentioned earlier on, the sales volume healthy as well, because there's always people exiting and entering. And the fourth factor is actually right size development. Development size impacts your property value, regardless of what some people are saying out there, like boutique development, you can buy or whatsoever. You can buy if you are very emotional, but for more practical reasons, let's think about it this way. If there's only 20 units for this development, this year 10 owners sold the unit, meaning the new buyer, if they want to sell, right, because of the SSD restriction, when can they sell? They can only sell 3 years later. That wipes out 10 of your transaction or the supply in that particular development already. So if you were to look at these 3 projects which I compare, right, they are all nearby stars of Kovan. So we have Kovan Residences, Bliss at Kovan, and Kovan Regency. Look at the price growth for each individual project. They still make money, but they do not make as much as Kovan Residences because they do not have enough transaction to support the growing prices. It has, if you look at it, the price that Kovan Residences make is almost 2 times of what Bliss at Kovan and Kovan Regency make. Okay, of course, from a more emotional or own state point of view, a bigger development will have more facilities, and having more facilities will appeal to more people. If you have seen apartments that have like 20 or 100 units, the gym maybe only see 1 treadmill or 2 treadmill. The swimming pool might be just a 20-meter swimming pool. So as a person buying or as a family buying into the condos in the area, I will not just view Bliss at Kovan, right? I also view Kovan Residences, Kovan Regency, and I will come to a conclusion if in my scorecard I will feel, oh, actually, all else being equal, Kovan Residences has better facilities for my kids or my families if they are growing up, and that will increase the demand for Kovan Residences. Okay, so the last factor T is transformation. When it comes to new launch, when people start to review new launches, they always sell the future, meaning what is happening here is that new MRT line, new business hub or whatever. It is also important for resale, but I feel what is the more important factor for resale when it comes to transformation, right, is the en-bloc GLS and new launch coming up, because it will support whatever prices, right, the resale owners are asking. So if you look at common scenario nowadays, a property that has not appreciated for like donkey years, 10 years, and suddenly a new launch come out selling 2000 PSF, the owners here, right, will automatically adjust their price, right, close to 2000 PSF, because the reasoning is as such. People are already accepting 2000 PSF for a new launch property. I'm only trying to sell at 1007. The demand will come, which is true. One example which I can give you will be around the Hillview, Hume Avenue area. If you look at the whole stretch, right, they have I think Tak Palace, Hume Avenue 1, Hillington Green, that whole stretch above the hill, it has been a dead project or a relatively stagnant project, right, for almost the past 20 years. How I know is because I used to stay there. And the prices didn't appreciate at all, right, until, right, they start to develop the plot of land behind Hillview, and they have the new launches coming up like Kingsford, Hillview Bay, Hillier, I think there's one more called Midwood, okay, and so on and so forth, and now there's still a new project that is selling there, and all this new launch and upcoming GLS, right, it actually drive up the price of the resale. They were transacting, if I believe I'm not wrong, right, maybe 800 to 900 PSF in the past, and it has been stagnant for so long. And because of all these new launch coming up, right, the owners readjusted their asking PSF to 1005, 1006, and there are still people buying in from them. Okay, so it's the same case for Kovan Residences. Today, you are a resale buyer, right? You will not just look at stars of Kovan alone. You will not just look at a particular new launch alone. You look at the resale in the area, and you'll do a comparison yourself, whether it is worth paying this premium to go for a new property or saving this premium and buying an older property. So it really matters a lot if there is such comparison, because you must have apple to apple comparison, then you know this apple is good or this apple is more valuable. So this is the case for Kovan Residences. If you look at it, it actually went through 3 new launch phase. People that buying in 2011, they have Tembusu supporting, they have Tri-Leaf supporting, and lastly they have Stars of Kovan supporting, because the buyers that are buying all around this area, right, they will compare, and when they make this comparison, Kovan Residences will profit, and it allow you to price your unit for this resale closer to the new launch price. Of course, it might not match completely, but it will not be too far off, and that's how you profit. Okay, so that's the case for OCR. Let's move on to RCR. RCR, we'll use this example of Seaside Residences and Laguna Park. Seaside Residences has been the talking point for most of the experts out there, where it showcases why you can buy a new launch because of the appreciation, which is not wrong, because Seaside Residences, the owners make a lot of money as well. But if you compare, right, Seaside Residences and Laguna Park, the distance, right, is almost also side by side. I would say the distance is maybe a 500-meter difference, but look at the price appreciation. Laguna Park, right, the same time you buy the Laguna Park, if you buy Seaside, right, Laguna Park make 41%, which is twice, almost, I think, 25 to 30% more than what Seaside Residences owner make, because Seaside Residences owner make around 30% only. Okay, so we apply this S.M.A.R.T framework into Seaside Residences and Laguna Park as well. You will see the price difference is staggering. Of course, why it's so staggering is because Laguna Park, the lease is relatively old as well as compared to Seaside. I don't think it's a 10 years difference. It's way more than that. But the price difference, if you were to buy 2017, is almost 100%. $855 PSL. That is pretty 夸张, okay? Anyways, if you look, same, for the transaction volume, market liquidity, Laguna Park has a very healthy transaction volume year to year. The only 2 times they didn't have crossed the double digit, right, is because they were trying en bloc. Okay, that's why all the transaction stopped and the owners in Laguna Park are hoping for a windfall, but it didn't happen. Maybe the next round it would happen, maybe, we don't know, but you can see averagely 3% transaction annually, okay, for Laguna Park. Thirdly, we look at the rental demand. East Coast area easily you can rent out, and the transaction volume is easily above 70 to 80 per year, which works out to be around 12 to 16% rental transaction per annum. This same thing again, it shows strong rental demand, and strong rental demand will support your annual value. Okay, and right side development, like we mentioned previously, 522 units, perfect. If you have been to Laguna Park, right, and you have a family, you will like the area because they have a lot of facilities, especially for older condos where they have bigger land area. Okay, so if you were to compare Laguna Park and the nearby developments, we have East at Signature, which is 20 units only, and Elliott at the East Coast. Both of them do make money, but like I mentioned, 20 units, how to support the market growth or the transaction prices. They only made 5% over the past 10 years. Okay, and for Elliott at the East Coast, also appreciate, but only by 20%. As compared to Laguna Park, which is 41%, more than double of what the surrounding resale property are transacting for. Okay, and lastly will be the transformation point, which we talked about. For Laguna Park, there's a new GLS that estimated launch price will be 2008 PSF. On top of that, Bayshore Park has been trying en bloc, Mandarin Gardens have been trying en bloc, and Neptune Court have been trying en bloc. All this transaction price, right, it shows that there's a very strong demand in the area and people are willing to pay. And if you know about the recent new launches, not slightly further away, maybe Emerald Katong, all this, you know that the transaction prices for the area is way higher. And for a freehold property that Arena is, I think they're asking around 3,000 to 3,003 PSF already. And lastly, we'll talk about the core central region. Same thing, it's the exact same framework. It will be Rivergate versus Martin Modern. Look at how close they are. They are just side by side. Really, you cross the road, you reach Martin Modern already. And look at the price appreciation difference. Rivergate are appreciated by 45%. Whereas for Martin Modern also make money, but they only appreciate by 23%. So from the first factor as savings from price difference, our price difference is slightly lower than the past 2 example because today we are comparing a freehold versus a leasehold property. So that premium is only 11% for a newer property. But in terms of the growth wise, right, Rivergate has actually appreciated close to double of Martin Modern, 45% compared to 23%. Okay? And for market liquidity, 547 units, transaction volume has been relatively healthy, around 3.2% per annum. There's only 1 year where it's less than double digit, but that is because no one is selling the units in Rivergate. Okay, so Rivergate is a very hot project once they launch because of the big floor plate and the facilities it have and the location, right? It is usually pretty quickly snap up. Okay. And next will be attractive rental demand. CCR, needless to say, a lot of expats love to stay there. So the rental transaction volume per year will be much higher than OCR and RCR property. And averagely, they have transaction volume of 33% to 41%. Okay? And right side development, same. It has 547 units. And if you compare the same area, Robertson 100 and Robertson Blue, okay, appreciation is still the same, almost double. Consistent with the past example which I have given. Okay, so 55% compared to 23% and 25% for Robertson Blue and Robertson 100. And lastly is the transformation. I believe, just my own thoughts, resale property in CCR still have a lot of room for growth if you identify the correct resale CCR property. Why do I say so? Because the second half of 2025, right, there will be 6 new launching in the CCR area. Okay, so with that being said, right, the resale gap and the new launch gap, right, is still relatively wide. So before you consider a new launch property, maybe you can look at a resale property in the area and compare with all the points which I have just shared in this video and see whether you can identify a good deal for yourself or not. If not, of course, if you want to engage my help to do that for you, feel free to contact me. But you can see from Rivergate, not just Martin Modern supporting its price, we have Re-Ray, Canning Hill Pierce, the Opus as well. Within this vicinity. Of course, slightly out, you have Well Hill, you have RV Altitude. All these are the new launches in similar area lah. Okay. With that, I just want to summarize the entire S.M.A.R.T framework. We have this scorecard for you. The first recap: saving on price gap. Is there a premium that you're saving on? If the same tenure, 20% is a good guideline. If it's a better tenure like freehold versus leasehold, 10% is a good guideline as well. Secondly is M, which is market liquidity, transaction volume. It will be good if there's 3 to 5% transaction per annum. And how do you derive that? It's very simple. Just take the total transaction per year, divide by the total number of units, and you will get the transaction percentage. Thirdly will be the attractive rental demand, because rental supports your annual value. Fourthly will be a right size development. Okay, above 500 units is a good size. I would say 500 to 600 will be a good definition for you to select the project, because anything like 1,000, for example, Treasure Tampines, not saying that it's not good, the owners still make a lot of money there, just that when you want to sell in the future, it will take a longer time because there's a lot of competition as well. And lastly will be transformation in the area. Study the en bloc happening, the new launch in the area, how much they are asking as compared to the resale they are looking at, and the GLS, how much government is going to sell the land for, or how much developers are bidding. So overall, this is the S.M.A.R.T framework and a scorecard for you, a guideline for you to buy a property. Of course, this is not absolute. If you are just buying for emotional reason, a boutique property will make sense as well. So I'm not shooting down any project. All project can make money. It's just that if you want to maximize or your profit on a resale project and ensure that's easy to sell, this is a very good and easy framework for you to follow and understand. And of course, if you would like to explore your resale option with us, do drop us a DM or a call, and we'll run through the S.M.A.R.T framework to see whether it's suitable for you. But before that, we will try to understand your objective. That's it for the video. Hope you enjoyed. Remember to like, share, and subscribe.